Hey everyone! I hadn't planned on recording today, but my messenger on Facebook and my email has just been ding ding dinging away, letting me know that there are some new filings in the income store case. And ultimately, I think that what was filed today will tell people who are involved with it or who are also voyeurs like me on the outside, what actually happened and what is happening, and maybe give us some insight into what is going to happen. First up, I just want to show you really quick that the filings are available on the incomestorereceivership.com website. So if any of these pleadings are something that you want to go check out, they are available for free. Just click on it, you'll get access to it. The first thing I want to cover and touch on really quickly today is Ken Courtwright's answer to the initial complaint. In the initial complaint, the SEC filed tons of allegations, and it is Courtwright's duty and obligation to respond to those in a way, either admit them, deny them, so that we basically can set up sort of like the chessboard of litigation. With the pleadings, basically you put all the pieces that you want to use on the board, and then throughout the case, you move those pieces. The pleadings, like the complaint and the answer, just tell everybody what the board looks like and what we're working with. And unfortunately, but not surprisingly, Courtwright's answer puts no pieces on this board. Basically, he has asserted his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent on the grounds that any admissions or denials could tend to incriminate him or to be used against him. And this was something that we touched on very early on, because basically if Ken wanted to fight for his company, he was going to have to assert information. He was going to have to come out and say, yes, I agree with this, or no, I don't agree with this. But all of those answers could be used against him in so many ways. In a criminal case, or if there were individual lawsuits brought by investors or other people who worked with him in order to recover money or receive some other relief. So you can cruise the answer if you want to, but basically it just says over and over, Kenneth Courtwright declines to answer on the ground that his answer may tend to incriminate him in violation of his privileges under the Fifth Amendment, bada 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 bada. It's 23 pages worth of, not gonna answer that, not gonna answer that, nope, not this one either, nope. No. Now this is me just speculating blindly here, so forgive me, but I would be really surprised Ken Courtwright's team and other principals who are involved in this, if their lawyers aren't speaking with federal prosecutors who are looking at this case. There's a lot of speculation about whether or not there's going to be a criminal prosecution and who would ultimately be prosecuted. It is fairly common before a criminal prosecution officially begins for the parties to try to work out the ultimate resolution before the case is filed. The reason is that in the federal court, once a case is filed, the prosecutor has limited ways to resolve the case. But if a resolution can be put together before they go forward with they can pursue different levels of charges, a different number of charges, and also work out the deal. I mean, it could be that across the board, Ken Courtwright and his team and all the players are just saying, I assert my Fifth Amendment right, not going to participate, not going to give you anything, not going to do anything. And that can be one strategy. That can work. But in many cases, especially when there's a significant amount of evidence, and I would call this case one where there is a significant amount of evidence of wrongdoing, allegedly, I really wouldn't be surprised that if in the future a criminal case is brought forward and then resolved really quickly. Now, is there a prosecution pending? I don't know. Are Ken and Carrie going to get prosecuted? I don't know, but I would be pretty surprised if there wasn't one. I think the case is too big. And if these folks have good lawyers, which I'm certain they do, those lawyers are experienced and they are already talking to the relevant people. You can't always get a better deal or a better outcome by negotiating the case before it goes to federal court, but sometimes you can. And I would be really surprised if they're not trying to do that right now. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Of greater import, and I think this will be very interesting to just about everybody who's watching this video, is the receiver's initial report. This is close to 30 pages, just sort of a summary written in a non-technical way of what the receiver has done. And there are a whole bunch of attachments to back up the things that they've done. I'm not going to read it line by line, but it does give you exactly the timeline of when things happen. I'm pretty active in Facebook groups. Well, I lurk in a lot of Facebook groups, I will say. But to this day, even in the last couple of days, I've still seen people posting in forums or posting on Facebook that maybe it was just bad business. And I think a lot of people just don't understand what happened. They don't always necessarily understand what it is that this company did or was doing. This report covers a lot of the facts that we are already aware of. It talks about the timeline, talks about the investigation. Basically, we know that the SEC is involved. We know that the receiver went in and got control of everything. The receiver is doing an investigation, trying to figure out what assets there are, and this report basically goes through what those efforts have been. If you're really interested in looking at the step-by-step stuff that they've done, I just recommend that you go and check out the report. Here's one thing though that we've been wondering, and I think it is a nugget that a lot of people should be aware of and wary of. Here in the footnote, it says that the receiver is aware that certain investors have already been repaid their full investment and are therefore net winners. The receiver would propose that those investors return any net winnings prior to receiver's transfer of the domain's websites. Maybe there are folks who are not necessarily like full net winners. We've talked about this before. There are some people who have potentially lost more than others, or have been injured more than others, or some people have had a chance just because they've been involved longer, who haven't had a chance to recover some of the money they put in and actually have a website that is valuable and that could continue to earn them money, whereas some people just put in their money and they got nothing. This might be the end of the investor kumbaya. I like that they go in here and tell you the specifics of how much money they've collected. They mentioned recovering approximately $300,000 in funds. To contrast, go and look at one of the exhibits, specifically Exhibit D, which shows the contracts with the site partners, specifically the ones that were signed in September, August, and July of 2019. That's potentially $10 million worth of money that was taken in Q3 and Q4. And you're telling me right now, all the company has at its fingertips is $300,000? I'll say that again. They took in $10 million in site partner funds and they only have $300,000. Oh my God. Moving on. And they did specifically note that they retained 6 information technology employees necessary to maintain and monetize investor websites, as well as to preserve the digital assets of the company. And that was something that a lot of people were wondering, like, who is running the website? Is there anybody there who's helping or keeping an eye on these websites and preserving what it is that exists? So now we know there are 6 people that the receiver has kept on payroll. Their preliminary figures reflect 3,130 domains owned and operated by the defendants. And then the receiver so helpfully tells us all what they are. So you can scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. There's almost 70 pages worth of domains here. People recently have been speculating or trying to investigate or uncover some of these domains to be able to analyze them or look deeper at what Income Store was doing or not doing. Now you basically have access to just about everything. This may not please the owners of these websites. They may not want the world to know that these specific domains were affiliated with Income Store in the future, in the event that they want to transfer the site to someone else or sell it. But now it is all there for the world to see. Highlights include parentingisatrap.com, imanscape.com, hardsock cafe, you'renotstupid.com, ton of domains around hotels, airports, mantastic pursuits, simpletoilet.com, Brazilian butt lift workout hq.com, and so much more. It says the receiver continues to investigate whether the company and the estate hold liquidated and unliquidated claims against third parties, affiliates, and insiders of defendants. Now, this is something that I've been thinking about and kind of questioning for a long time being the last month, is will there be additional claims, clawback litigation? Will the receiver be going after individuals who did receive money from the Income Store to claw back those payments? And I'm not necessarily talking about investors. I'm thinking potentially of some contractors who may have been involved in the company in the past 12 months, who maybe received some fairly large payouts for doing some work, even if it was significant for the company. Can you imagine if you were a contractor who had a legitimate contract with the company, maybe something as big as 6 figures, right? And if those funds came from a place that they shouldn't have, man, these people who are sitting there thinking, oh, we got out just in time, or I got paid just in time. Gosh, it's going to be brutal if those monies have to come back. Let's see, they disclosed the known investors and creditors. The names of the investors are redacted. The receiver identifies more than 700 contracts, but fewer investors because some had multiple contracts. The initial estimate from the receiver was 500, so they dug up 200 more contracts. This is something that I think lots of people will be interested in, is the recommendations for moving forward. The receiver intends to propose a hybrid claims process that permits investors to make a claim for the website assigned to them in the consulting performance agreement in exchange for releasing any claim against the estate, and the investors who do not want their site could participate in a distribution process from a pool of liquidated assets and recovered funds. There are a lot of people who, to be made whole, would need to get their website plus cash, but that might not be an option if this hybrid process gets approved. Investors might have to choose between the site or the chance of getting money back. Now, just because the receiver proposes this as a potential resolution does not mean that it will be the way it's going to happen. It may mean, though, that people who oppose this potential resolution will have to do something about it. Maybe that's having their lawyers file something, object to it, or call the receiver and the attorneys and tell them over and over that this is a bad deal. Should you do that? Not for me to advise you. That's something for you and your lawyers to talk about, but it's hard to say right now whether together this hybrid process of either getting your website or getting on a list, potentially get some money if there is some in the future, is actually that fair. This expedited process will permit the receiver to transfer or liquidate the domains or websites in the next 90 to 120 days. So that gives us a little bit of information about the timeline that we're looking at. Some of the potential issues with this, what happens if the website that you believe that you owned or was assigned to you isn't clear in the records? Are we going to have multiple investors making claims for the same website? People will have to make the decision. Would it be better to take the website and try to make it into something more than it is? Or to say, take it, I don't want it, I'll roll the dice and hope that there's going to be some money that comes out of this later. I find P&Ls really interesting. This is Exhibit F. Since we know that there wasn't enough revenue to cover expenses, investors could look at this as a report of what Income Store did with their money. It makes me angry to see this. It says in 2019, they paid out $460,000 in charitable donations, $1,200,000 in compensation or commissions. So this isn't revenue payouts to site partners. They paid $18,000 in credit card interest charges, $50,000 in meals and entertainment, almost $6 million in payroll, $220,000 in travel expenses. Holy cow. My goodness, I've gone on plenty about this. So what does this all mean? Does this change anything? Nope. We're still waiting to see whether or not there will be an evidentiary hearing in March about the initial allegations. It's great to have an estimate as far as the timeline for resolving the websites, but again, that's an estimate and there's no guarantee that it will happen that soon. I have tons of questions still. I want to know who their valuation expert is, because right now they're trying to estimate the value of the assets. The receiver and the lawyers, websites aren't their specialty, so they're definitely going to have to bring an outside consultant in to tell them or give them estimates. Otherwise, it's kind of going to be like the blind leading the blind. Yeah, so I'm super curious if any of the brokerages, if the guys over at Empire Flippers or FE International, or even some established website operators are going to be involved in helping out with valuation. And then for the domains or the properties that they decide to liquidate, what's that process going to look like? Should brokers or individuals who are interested in buying sites, should they be contacting the receiver and letting them know that they're interested and would be willing to pay cash? Would the receiver list the domains and websites for sale so that interested parties could vet them? They have to have somebody consulting and helping them manage this part if that's the road they go down. I just don't know who, and I'm super curious. All right, well, that's the update. I am fairly certain that I could talk about this case and this situation and this topic for much, much longer, but I gotta run. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.